Good morning. Welcome to Cumulus Cares. I'm your host, Steve Perez. Always talking with organizations, people making a difference in our community. And every Sunday morning, that's what we do. We talk to organizations, we talk to people doing great in our community. And actually, this morning, we're going to be talking with Ventura County, the Sheriff's Office, and we're going to be talking with Sheriff Ayub. Good morning, Sheriff. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing just terrific. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know what? Thank you for coming on the show. One of the things about Cumulus Cares, we're always reaching out to our community. We're always finding ways to making our community better. And we're also talking with a lot of people who do make a difference in our community. And I know you guys in the sheriffs do a great job in our community. You protect us. You look out for us. And sometimes, you don't get all the credit that you should, which I think you guys should, because you're always, again, looking out for us. And once again, I want to say personally, thank you for all first responders, what you guys do there at the Ventura Sheriff's Office.
Oh, thanks so much for that. We really love this community and take a great deal of pride in serving it. So we're honored to do so.
First of all, I wanted to talk a few things about some maybe programs and how you can assist our community. I know a few things we wanted to talk about was homelessness going on here in Ventura County. Maybe you can help us, tell us a little bit, maybe some programs that we can help some people out on the street who may not know what they can do because they feel like they're at that point, they don't know where to go.
So the homeless situation in our county, like many others, is really growing. And we certainly don't have some of the problems that we see in the major metropolitan areas, but we do have an increasing number of homeless in our community. In 2016, we had our point-in-time homeless count that identified 1,271 homeless individuals right here in Ventura County. In 2020, that number climbed to 1,743. And those are the people that were actually identified in the community. So that's a pretty significant increase. And, just being a member of the community, we're seeing a larger and larger presence of the homeless in our neighborhoods, in our business environment, and at the beaches, certainly, and a lot of times in the open space that we so much enjoy in our county. In 2013, we saw this population's really starting to grow. And I mentioned the numbers back in 2016, and compare those with 2020. Looking even further back, you can see the really significant increase over time in this part of the population. And it was such a noticeable rise that in 2013, we actually established a full-time deputy sheriff in our city of Camarillo to do nothing but work with the homeless community. So that person focused on identifying the members of the homeless community, developing relationships with them with the sole purpose of trying to find them services and get them out of homelessness. One of the top calls for service we respond to are calls related to the homeless, vagrancy types of issues related to unsanitary conditions, trespassing, littering, and so forth. So we assign this deputy to do nothing but work with the homeless, and we've seen great success with it. We call that Project Hope in Camarillo. And not too long thereafter, Thousand Oaks followed suit with a couple of deputies assigned full-time to work with the homeless population. And we've seen really great success in that. And number one, helping to get those resources to the needy people in the community, but also to help us with investigating crimes and other law enforcement related matters associated with that community. That program has developed over time. We now work with our behavioral health department in a program we call RISE, and that's where a clinician rides with a deputy sheriff, the homeless deputy sheriffs in both Thousand Oaks and Camarillo, and interacts with the homeless community to try and deliver services on the mental health side. Our healthcare agency delivers backpack medicine services to that segment of the population. So it's really a collaborative approach and something we're working hard on now to try and address those community issues that come to our attention related to the homeless population.
Well, that's great. You guys are doing a wonderful job in putting that together. If the numbers go down, that's even better for a lot of the communities, and it's less work for you guys, but I'm sure a lot of residents are pretty happy about hearing like, wow, they are really working hard to help a lot of homeless people in our community, which again, it has risen, but also too, I'm sure with other helps with programs like have also helped slowly bring down the homelessness because again, I'm sure a lot has happened because of the pandemic. So I'm sure things has made it a little bit different and maybe even difficult, but I'm sure you guys are working through that, correct?
We most certainly are. And the pandemic has complicated things. You probably know that during the height of the pandemic, the government actually rented motel space and placed the large numbers of the homeless population in motel space to, one, help them from getting sick, but also keep them from spreading disease within the community. There was kind of a multi-pronged approach to that. We certainly don't have a measurement as to how successful that was, but that was something that was done to address that segment of our population. And it helped us out too in identifying who we actually have in our community and allowed us to develop relationships at a deeper level to help us address those members of the community as we move forward in time.
As we are moving forward, hopefully that things will get better. People, getting vaccinated and everything. And we're hoping this all works out. Again, thank you again for doing all that. And also, too, I want to talk about mental illness. I know there's people in our community that need that help. Any programs or anything that you can actually share with us about the mental illness?
Mental illness is a huge challenge for us in the community. As you can imagine, many of the people that we encounter in the community have some form of mental illness. I can tell you that just within our jail system, and I often tell people the Ventura County jail system is the largest mental health facility between Los Angeles and San Luis Obispo. It just happens to be the place that many people with mental illness wind up. Since the closure of our state hospitals, we've seen a rise in the mentally ill in our communities. And of course, they get involved in situations that come to the attention of police forces around the state. Certainly, that's no exception in Ventura County. Right here in the Ventura County Jail, about 14% of our inmate population is seriously mentally ill. And that's seriously mentally ill is a chronic mental illness that usually is debilitating and prevents that person from really adapting to societal norms. So that person just cannot function in society real well. They're not mentally ill enough to be compelled into mental health care, but they're mentally ill enough that they really need some help. And they wind up in the county jail system. And so we end up treating them there while they're awaiting proceedings on whatever criminal matter has landed them in the county jail system. So that's about 150 people if you look at 14% of our inmate population. A more staggering number is about 43% of our inmate population takes some kind of psychotropic medication. So they're under a physician's care and prescribed psychotropic medication to address an underlying mental health illness. And so this is a really big issue for us. We started about 20 years ago training our deputy sheriffs in what's called crisis intervention team principles. And these are psychological principles that allow them being our deputies, to interact with people with mental illnesses in the community who are suffering crises in a more compassionate, more effective way. It has to do with creating time and distance between the deputy and that person, allows that person to settle down and actually submit to what the deputy is trying to get them to do, which in most cases is come out of whatever type of crisis they're in. And so we've seen a really significant decrease in use of force incidents involving deputies and the mentally ill, injuries to our deputies because we're not having to use force like we did many years ago, and then of course a decline in injuries to people with mental illness that our deputies encounter. So a largely successful program that I'm proud to say we apply to every one of our deputies in our patrol services, and that we're now training civilian jail staff in our jail system as well as our dispatchers in similar principles so that we can have a broader understanding of how to address mental illness when it's brought to our attention.
I'm glad you guys are really going the extra mile because I know a lot of communities aren't doing this and you are. And I mean, I never knew this and this is something new. And I'm glad you're able to share this with us because a lot of people might not even know what you guys are doing behind the scenes, right?
I would imagine so. And that's not a bad thing. But we do want the public to know that this is an important matter to us. We're always looking to improve the way in which we do things. And I mentioned that large population of seriously mentally ill in our jail environment. That, as you can imagine, poses problems for us in terms of managing that population. We had a lot of infliction of violence, self-infliction of violence by this population. So people, mutilating themselves, suicide attempts, really bad behavior. We actually created what we call a therapeutic inmate management unit to address those behaviors and try and minimize inmate-on-inmate violence. Use of force incidents involving our custody staff and the psychiatric inmate population. This, we call a TIM unit, Therapeutic Inmate Management Unit, is designed to promote socialization It includes an incentive program for good behavior, such as cleaning the living area, bathing, taking medications, eating properly, and so forth. And there's rewards that are given in the form of movie time, art programs, longer day room time for the inmates involved in the program. And so the better the behavior, the more freedoms and privileges the inmates are given. And it's been hugely successful in reducing problem behavior in our jail environment.
I'm glad to hear this. And it sounds like, again, you guys are really on top of it. You've looked what you need to do. You've actually accomplished what you need to accomplish. Again, you're making our community and you're helping at the same time all of what you're doing. So this is a great thing to hear, because it's always good to know things like this, because sometimes we don't know. And again, it's always behind the scenes. And this is why we do this show, to talk to people like you making a difference in our community. I got to thank your officers and people on the streets really looking and really helping our community, because that's what it's all about, is keeping our community safe.
Absolutely. This is all, my primary job as sheriff is to drive crime down and keep our community safe. And I'm going to do whatever I can to accomplish that goal. And if it is, providing a better environment for those suffering mental illness to be successful when they're released from custody, I'm going to find ways to do that. And certainly minimizing the likelihood of violence within our jail facilities is always a high priority of ours. And so we're always looking for ways in which we can do that.
Also, Sheriff, wanted to jump into this. We've been talking about mental illness. What about drug issues right here in our community? I know you guys have been working hard to do things. What can you tell us about that?
We talked about homelessness and mental illness, and drugs are it's kind of like the third leg of the stool. We have this problem in the community, and all of these things sort of feed each other. We see the homeless are largely suffering from mental illness and or a co-occurring chronic drug problem or alcohol problem. Sometimes all of those things roll together. There seems to be a lot of overlap. And so we look at all of these things as sort of that collective approach to dealing with that problem. Drugs, as you know, as our listeners know, no strangers to our communities. We've seen drug problems for years. There's a high demand. Of course, we do enforcement. And today we're seizing larger and larger quantities of drugs on the street. But yet we're still seeing plenty of supply. There's a large supply coming across the U.S. border from Mexico. Methamphetamine is manufactured there in super labs. We're seeing large quantities of fentanyl, which is a synthetic opiate, coming over the border and getting into our communities. And despite our great efforts and vast successes in seizing large quantities of drugs, we're still seeing plenty in the community to feed that demand. Our overdoses locally are incredibly alarming. In 2018, we saw 170 overdose deaths in Ventura County. In 2019, 128. In 2020, 203. 2021, were projected to exceed 250. We were at 134 deaths from overdose at our mid-year count in 2021. We should all be incredibly concerned about this. We're seeing overdose deaths related to methamphetamine, chronic use, and then as little as experimental use of opiates. This fentanyl that's coming over is incredibly powerful. It's being pressed into a tablet form to be passed off as a pharmaceutical, when in actuality it's an illicit drug manufactured in a clandestine laboratory somewhere. And the users really have no idea what they're taking. They're just taking what they believe to be a party drug. And sadly, we're seeing overdose deaths as a result of that. The opiate antagonist, which is an antidote to opiate overdose, it's called Narcan or naloxone, is widely used in the community. Every one of our deputy sheriffs carries naloxone in their patrol cars with them. We have it readily available in our jail system, where we do happen to see overdose incidents there. And so even though you have skyrocketing overdose death numbers, the incidence of overdose is far, far higher than that. So this is a really serious chronic problem that is striking every socioeconomic aspect of our county. And it's not exclusive to Ventura County. It's happening nationwide.
And also, too, you guys have been doing a great job of seizing a lot of things that are coming through our beaches through the Ventura County as well, too. I'm seeing that on the news, and you guys are doing your best, of course, but maybe us as a community, what could we do to help out in many ways, too? Because I know we have eyes, we have ears, we can do something, too, to help out, because we don't want this increasing in our county and with residents who live here.
Absolutely. We rely heavily on tips from the public on illegal drug activity. The key really has to be reducing that demand for those drugs. Despite our best efforts, the drug smugglers are really clever. They manage to get it into our communities despite our best efforts. And we really have to focus in the community, at the community level, on reducing that demand, keeping kids away from illicit drug use, really making that, a taboo in our society. And until we can do that, I fear we're going to continue seeing problems like this. It's a frightening environment. And I think anybody that's out there using illicit drugs right now really should be taking pause about what they may be taking into their bodies and the fact that they could quite easily overdose and possibly die from their illegal drug use. It's a really, really serious concern that we all should be worried about.
It's something that we got to make sure that we try to keep in control. Now, is there maybe a tip line or something that maybe people can say, hey, you know what? I know something's going on. I got to tell somebody, because they just don't want to keep it inside and not say anything, because that is a time when we need people to step up and actually, say, hey, I need to tell somebody.
There's a variety of ways in which to get information to your local law enforcement agency. Ventura County Crime Stoppers is a great way to do that. It's completely anonymous. A tip can be submitted online at VenturaCountyCrimeStoppers.org, or caller could call 1-800-222-TIPS. That's 1-800-222-TIPS, and TIPS is 8477. 1-800-222-8477.
Yeah, because I'm sure some people would want to help, and again, they want to stay anonymous, but again, this helps you guys in fighting crime and drugs and many other things too that we want to make sure our communities and our neighborhoods are safe in too,
Absolutely. And the public, when leveraged properly, when they have confidence in their police force, they're an incredible force multiplier for us. The likelihood of us being successful hinges upon our public's involvement in the problem. And so I'm really thankful to be able to get the word out today to get our public activated and help us solve these problems that we're all facing.
Right. We want to make sure that things are better. We want to look at the years to come as better years, not worse years. We've been through a pandemic. We've been through many things here in Ventura County, and, fires. Everything you can think of, we've actually had happen here in Ventura County. And I think, to me, we have a great community who always steps up, who always helps, who always works together with law enforcement to help make it even a better community than, our neighboring communities are going through, issues. That's one of the things I love being here about Ventura County is we all are able to help each other out.
You're absolutely right. And that's why Ventura County is so safe. It's why we have such a high quality of life here. It's that public partnership that we enjoy that allows us to do that. It's not just, we have the best deputies, the best police officers, the best equipment and training. That's great. We have those things, but it's that synergistic relationship between an active and engaged public that allows us to have, historically low crime rates, one of the safest places in the nation to live, while you see crime skyrocketing in other places. It's that public, private partnership with, law enforcement and our public's support working together.
Right. And even everybody who again lives out here enjoys being out here. We've got celebrities who live out here. We've got people who retire out here. It's just people love to be here. We've got the beach. We've got beautiful mountains, hiking areas. There's so much you can ask for in a community that is great. And again, being with law enforcement, helping out, protecting us, thanking you for what the sheriff's department has been doing out here. It's great. Things are going in a good direction, but again, we can do better, right?
We can always do better. And that's our approach is, even though we have extremely low crime rates, people are still being victimized in some ways. There's things being stolen, homes get broken into on occasion, and we are always looking for ways to drive that crime down. As long as we have victims that are being taken advantage of by the unscrupulous members of society, we're going to be on the job, and we're going to be trying to keep that from happening here. We appreciate that support that we do get in helping us to keep our county safe.
Now, is there anything you can tell our audience about maybe what we can do to, like I say, to help more or to look out for? I mean, we want to make sure that we are always able to help you guys as well. What can we do? Again, things we should look out for. Because I know sometimes you talk about crime, and sometimes people from other counties come in and create crime in our own backyard.
You're absolutely right. We have an affluent community, largely. Ventura County is well funded. We have a robust economy. We're the envy of a lot of places. We do have organized crime rings that come into our county and commit residential burglaries. We have organized retail theft crews that come in, and we've been reading about these and seeing about these crews lately on the evening news, where they've been swarming stores and clearing off the shelves. And while we haven't seen that exact behavior here locally, it certainly could happen. And we have seen other organized groups come in and steal from our retailers and our neighborhoods. I encourage everybody to just be vigilant, to not be dismissive of things that are suspicious. It's very easy to see something suspicious and then rationalize it as being something that that could explain a behavior, could explain a presence in an area. We do have a number of ways of communicating with the public about crime trends and current happenings. I would encourage members of the public to follow us on social media. You can type in Ventura Sheriff either on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and you can get updates on what's going on locally. We also have a smartphone application that is available in the Apple Store or in Google Play. And so regardless of what type of phone you have, you can download a Ventura County Sheriff's application, and that allows you to receive information updates on fraud alerts, on press releases, on crime trends. It allows you to communicate with our office with issues, so you can report things. And it just allows you to increase your awareness of what's happening locally. And that's what's key. When our community members are vigilant and alert, it allows and better reporting of criminal behavior. I'm sure everybody listening knows we've had a rash in a current trend of catalytic converter thefts. It's always a group of criminals come into our county. Some live locally within our county, and they get underneath automobiles and steal catalytic converters, which is a piece of the exhaust system that contains precious metals. Apparently there's a high resale value for recycling those things, and it is a serious problem. In fact, my son's girlfriend had her catalytic converter stolen from in front of our house, and it was a $4,000 repair bill, and the car was down for 2 weeks. So it's a really significant impact on members of our community, and it's very costly for all of us, be it an insurance loss or an out-of-pocket loss. And so we want our members of the public to be vigilant and look for suspicious behavior. If you hear unusual noises, be curious and keep your eyes peeled. Let us know. We have a number of deputies that are out in the community that are, they have sharp eyes and they're focused and they're looking for trouble, but they're not everywhere all the time. But when we have members of the public who are keeping their eyes open or are keeping watch and let us know when they see something, that makes us a whole lot better at our job, and we appreciate that.
It does. And also, too, I notice this also helps, too. A lot of people actually have cameras now, to try to catch criminals in the act, and they're near their homes or a neighbor's house. And has that actually been able to help you guys, too, with people having cameras?
Cameras are one of the first things we look for in following up on criminal behavior. They present a treasure trove of evidence for us. Sometimes we capture a license plate, a vehicle description, sometimes a suspect's physical characteristics, sometimes a suspect's face or suspects' faces. And it is a really terrific means of helping us follow up on crimes and solve them. Not only is it a great way to collect evidence as a business owner, as a property owner, someone who lives in the county, it's a great deterrent as well. So criminals don't like lights, they don't like dogs, they don't like cameras. They're really good things to install to help prevent crime. And ideally, we would like to prevent crime to begin with. It's great that we're good at catching people on the back end, but it would truly be a better world if we could prevent that crime from happening to begin with. Get those criminals going somewhere else besides our great county.
Well, Sheriff, thank you so much for coming on Cumulus Cares today. Thank you for really breaking things down for us. It's always a great thing that we talk with you. We get things to know about our community. And like you just said, the best thing is to follow social media with you guys, because I actually do follow you guys on social media. I get alerts. Sometimes if something's happening in a neighborhood, you alert people through their phones. It's just the best way to know things and find out what's going on right away. That way you can keep your eyes out when you're in the streets, right?
Absolutely. And there is one other means of communication that I didn't mention that I'd really like our listeners to know about. That's our VC Alert. That is a notification system for emergencies in the community. We use it to make notifications on evacuations and natural disasters, traffic hazards, that sort of thing. It's not overused, but it's something that you can opt in for to receive notifications from our Office of Emergency Services. ReadyVenturaCounty.org. That's readyventuracounty.org is a site where you can go to sign up for VC Alert. And it's a really terrific resource if you don't have those alerts to receive and have that extra awareness of what's going on in our county so that you can be safe and know about what's happening right here in Ventura County.
Sheriff Ayub, thank you so much for coming on Cumulus Cares. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you really getting to get some information out to our listeners, hoping that we have the better years coming. Hopefully crime rate is going to be down. Hopefully things will get better. We'll be out of a complete pandemic and much more. Again, if there's anything you want to share with our listeners, please go ahead and do so right now.
Thank you. I hope for all those things as well. Our fingers are crossed that these east winds and the dry weather don't lead to more fires and trouble locally like we've seen in years past. I just like to thank the members of the public who for listening and for being attentive and for helping us keep this county just a great place to live, work, and play. Absolute treat to serve as a peace officer in our county. We've had some challenging times over the years, and our public support, we feel it and we appreciate it, and it inspires us to work harder to keep this county safe, and we're going to continue to do that. So very, very much appreciated for the time today, and thank you very much.
Anytime, Sheriff.